Chapter 8, Pulse Nightclub, Orlando, Florida, Sunday, June 12, 2016. Love is an amazing emotion. It strikes without warning. It does not see age, race, sex, creed, or background. It does not care if you're from a big city, a small town, or somewhere in between. Love has been described many thousands of different ways in thousands of different venues. Leslie Les Percival and Donaldo Donnie Suarez would describe it to family and friends as POW. Always capitalized, always spoken a little louder than any other word they would utter. They would not say, "I love you," to each other, just POW. The odds of Les and Donnie finding each other, much less feeling POW, were almost astronomical. Les was born on June 12, 1981 in Glendale, Arizona, a Phoenix suburb. Donnie was also born June 12, 1981 in Little Havana, downtown Miami, Florida. Both boys were part of hardworking, blue-collar families. Les's folks, Dave and Linda, had met several years before while working at Luke Air Force Base. He was a cook. She was a server for the Enlisted Men's Club. They met while working, married in June 1980, and continued at Luke in one or another of their dining facility service clubs for the rest of their careers. Donnie's parents also worked in the food service industry. His mother, Elena, was the cook. Mateus, his father, was the server. They met while working in a Little Havana eatery, and through hard work and a great deal of talent, ended up working together at the Eden Rock Resort in Miami Beach. They married in August 1980 and continued working together at the Eden Rock South Beach. Donnie fell into Mateus and Elena's profession happily and gladly. Les ended up wanting the exact opposite of his parents. Both Dave and Linda were happy where they were. They enjoyed working with the military. The pay was good. The soldiers and officers were friendly. As government employees, the retirement benefits were outstanding. There was no wanderlust as far as the Percival family was concerned, except for Les. He dreamed of travel, of seeing places filled with colors other than military camo, brown dirt, and cactus. When he was old enough to head out on his own, Les would toddle off to Rawhide Travel and Tours on West Bell Road, where he'd beg and plead with Ron, the owner, for any pamphlets, flyers, or catalogs he could spare. He'd head back home, devour his new treasures, then look through his well-worn set of Encyclopedia Britannica for additional information on the continents and countries Ron had shared with him. And he would dream. Dream of anywhere but Arizona. Dream of anywhere other than an Air Force base. At age 13, Les had two choices. One was working with his parents at the base, washing dishes at one of the clubs. The second was working at Rawhide Travel. Easy selection. He started at Rawhide on June 12, 1994, his birthday, helping in the office, making sure the brochure racks were neat and orderly, answering phones, and as time went on, helping clients with their travel plans. Although he loved working at Rawhide and loved working with Ron and his staff, the wanderlust never left Les. If anything, he grew stronger. He knew there was a life beyond Glendale, beyond the base, beyond Arizona. Now he could see it, feel it, touch it, taste it. Yet it seemed no closer to him than when his brochures and encyclopedia were scattered all over the living room rug. Saturday, June 13, 1998. The day before, Les had turned 17. It had been a quiet day. His parents had taken him out for birthday dinner at Bitsy Mama's, their go-to Mexican restaurant. The three of them went. Les had no date. Les never had a date, at least not out in public. Les was gay. He'd known for years, but had never come out to his parents. Although the gay community in Arizona was becoming stronger, Phoenix had elected an openly gay mayor in 1994, there were pockets of resistance. One pocket was Luke Air Force Base. So, Les had remained silent. He'd had several encounters at Glendale High School, another pocket. Again, quiet, very secretive, everyone locked in their own closet. Les had learned very quickly how to play the game, having friends, but not close friends, with both girls and boys at school. Never doing anything to call attention to himself, belonging to a club here or there, but never a club that would raise any eyebrows. The school newspaper, the yearbook staff, the debate team. Ron and Rawhide had cultivated Les's skills at extemporaneous speaking. Ron called it thinking fast on your feet. One club Les did start at Glendale, the Travel Club. On Saturday, June 13th, 2 light bulbs went off almost simultaneously above 2 heads. Ron and Les were reviewing new catalogs and brochures from Norwegian Cruise Line, NCL, when Ron said, "What a great way to see the world." He stopped, looked over at Les, who burst into this wide-eyed grin. Yes, Ron, it would be a great way to see the world. Between customers, they both worked at finding out who Les should send his application to, what it should include, and when to send it. They worked on a resume for Les, a strong letter of recommendation from Ron, and a list of people Les should contact for more letters. The debate team coach, the school newspaper yearbook moderator, any business owner that knew Les and his family. That night, both his parents had the night off, a rarity for them, especially on a weekend night. Les laid it out for them. He wanted to work on a cruise ship. He didn't care what job. He didn't care what ship. No, he was not going to college, not right now, even though he carried a B+ average. Yes, he had thought it through. Yes, he knew what he was doing. No, Ron had not sugarcoated it for him. He would live below decks, probably with a roommate. The days and or nights would be long. He'd have to be on all the time, even when he was at port, especially when he was at port. He loved his parents. He appreciated all they had done for him. He would miss them, but he needed to do this for himself. If he was hired, he wanted their blessing and support, and if possible, a favor. The blessing they gave, the favor would be difficult. Both his parents were good friends with the base commander, General Carroll H. Chandler, General Howie to his staff at Luke. They had both served him multiple times at the clubs and dining rooms. He'd been surprised and delighted that his 2 favorite Percivals were married to each other. They had felt comfortable enough in their friendship to ask him to dinner at their house several times, where he had met and grown fond of Les. General Howie's tour at the base was ending in July. Was it possible for them to get a letter of recommendation from him? It was. A week later, a 2-page glowing recommendation on Howie's Luke Air Force Base stationery was handed to Les by his father and mother, along with their blessing, support, and love. With Ron's help, Les applied to every cruise line actively sailing. After a couple of rejections, many phone calls, and 2 in-person interviews, he was hired by NCL. After extensive training, Les was placed aboard the Norwegian Crown as a travel advisor trainee. After his initial 5-month assignment and glowing reviews, he was transferred to the Norwegian Majesty, where he sailed for 4 years. In 2004, he moved to the Norwegian Dawn. In 2006, to the Pride of America, the only U.S. flagged ship. In 2008, to the Norwegian Gem. Then finally, in 2010, to what was at the time the pinnacle of the Norwegian fleet, the 3rd largest cruise ship in the world, the Norwegian Epic. Les Percival knew what he was getting into back in 1999. 7-day work weeks, 10-hour work days, living with 2 or 3 roommates at a time. However, Les came on board the Crown with 2 goals in mind. First, he was going to work as hard as he possibly could to become management, which would mean his own quarters. The second goal was to take advantage of every single port any of his ships sailed to see and experience everything that was available to him. By the age of 24, Les had accomplished goal number 1. As manager of the on-board travel advisory team on the Dawn, he had his own quarters, no roommates. He had also seen more of the world than most men his age, from squalor to opulence, from many port cities to shacks selling fresh macheted coconut juice, from magical sunrises in the Bahamas to equally magical sunsets in Alaska. Les had been true to his goal, and he would continue to be. As his career continued ascending, for example, as one of the developers of the Cruise Next program aboard the fleet, so did the perks of success continue his way. He would send passengers to hotels, resorts, and restaurants, and those businesses would reward Les handsomely. When he had time off, he would treat himself to spectacular vacations. 5-star resorts, the best in food and wines, and always exploring, looking for something, anything he'd never seen or experienced before. Like Donaldo Donnie Suarez. If there was anyone born, bred, and raised to be in the restaurant profession, it was Donnie Suarez. His father, Mateus, was one of the absolute best front-of-the-house managers, not just in South Florida, but in the world. He had a knack for remembering names, faces, family members. He remembered where people liked to sit, what they liked to drink, what foods they enjoyed, even a favorite wait person. Although having a 7th grade education, Mateus, always Mateus, never Matt, had an incredible memory that would constantly amaze older patrons and new ones as well. He also was, without any shadow of a doubt, the most discreet man in Florida. A male customer who might have been in last night with a beautiful blonde would be greeted by Mateus like he hadn't seen him since the last time he brought the beautiful brunette who was on his arm tonight, which of course would earn Mateus a hefty tip. Donnie's mother, Elena, was a chef before Food Network made it a hip profession. Homeschooled by her mother and grandmother, Elena had developed a unique gift of being able to actually taste flavors before combining them. She could think of pork or beef or chicken, and then the herbs, spices, sauces that would enhance each protein. As a child, sitting in the kitchen, Donnie would rattle off ingredients. Elena would take that list, add or subtract certain components, and create a new dish that would both amaze and delight Donnie and Mateus. From 1980, Mateus and Elena considered themselves a team. Once they'd met and married in 1980, they never dreamed about working anywhere else but in their own Cuban restaurant. They became more focused on that dream once Donnie arrived in 1981. Unfortunately, the right opportunity was slow in appearing. They were professionals. It had to be perfect. They stayed at the Eden Rock until late 1989 and the meteoric rise of South Beach. Both Mateus and Elena had learned early on about South Beach moving from a semi-squalid retirement community to a trendy deco district fueled in part by that hit TV show Miami Vice. They spent hours combing the area, finally discovering a location at the bottom of the Breakwater Hotel at 940 Ocean Drive. With the help of investors from the Eden Rock, they opened Suarez on June 12, 1990, Donnie's 9th birthday. Elena and her cooks prepared the finest Cuban food in town, and Mateus ran the front of the house with the elegance and skill of a man born to run a 5-star restaurant. It wasn't long before Suarez became just that. If you didn't have a reservation at least 2 weeks in advance, or know the owners, they had a secret special 2-table section for relatives and friends, then don't bother showing up. There are technical schools, culinary institutes, colleges, and universities that teach how to own and operate a restaurant, how to prepare the type and level of cuisine that keeps patrons coming back time and again. And then there's Mateus and Elena Suarez and what they taught their little Donnie. Neither of them learned how to run a successful restaurant. They lived it. They felt it deep within each of them. They knew where every pothole was, every bump, every wrong turn. They had made their share of mistakes, and they learned something from every single one. What they taught Donnie about the restaurant business could not be found in any textbook, lecture hall, or test kitchen. Turning tables, food costs, fresh versus frozen ingredients, cleanliness, proper staffing, liquor costs, those can be taught. What could not be taught was the emotion, the pride, the passion that went with every step in creating a happy and successful meal for every single patron entering the restaurant. And to care, really and truly care in that creation. From his 9th birthday on, Donnie lived and breathed Suarez, starting as a busboy, then washing dishes, then line cook, then waiter, then sous chef, then supervisor, then front-of-the-house manager. Donnie was the restaurant's mascot, always smiling, always happy. The very first table he bussed, wearing his small uniform with a black bow tie, was the family of one of the Eden Rock investors. "Thanks for coming to my folks' place," he said, picking up the dishes with a big grin on his face. While heading out, the investor pulled Mateus aside. "That kid of yours is your secret weapon," he smiled, putting his arm around a beaming father. And he was. Every interview Mateus and Elena ever gave, be it radio, TV, or print, their son was right there with them. "Our secret weapon," they'd call him, followed by Donnie always getting the last word. "Come to Suarez. It's named after me." On June 12, 2007, Donnie's 26th birthday, he came into Suarez about 2 p.m., his normal arrival time, to be greeted by, "Surprise!" The restaurant was filled with family, friends, and staff. Birthday banners and balloons were everywhere. Mateus and Elena had closed the restaurant for a private party, Donnie's birthday. Elena had made all of Donnie's favorites: black bean frijoles, tostones rellenos, both chicken and beef empanadas, ceviche, papitas bravas, the traditional Cuban sandwich, churrasco steak, oxtail stew, drunk chicken rice, and Elena's award-winning seafood paella. After everyone had eaten well more than their fill, Mateus slowly got up and raised his glass. "My family, my friends, today, 26 years ago, was the second happiest day of my life, the birth of my boy Donaldo. The first, of course, was the day I married his mother." Everyone laughed and applauded, mostly at Elena, nodding truth to that. "But today is the third happiest day in my life. What Donaldo does not know is that his mother and I have been to the attorneys, and we've drawn up new papers on Suarez. Today, the whole family owns Suarez. Donaldo, as of today, you are a full partner with your mother and I." What Mateus and Elena did not know is that Donnie had been contacted by the legendary Fontainebleau Hotel. They were undergoing what was to become a $1 billion transformation, and they were looking for young, exceptionally talented men and women to help oversee their 7 new restaurants. Headhunters had been to Suarez several times and had been impressed with the ease that Donnie handled any challenges that arose while continuing to be graceful and mature far beyond his 25 years. Donnie had met with the general manager that very day, had been made an offer to become a manager in training with one of the iconic hotels in the country. When Mateus made his announcement, Donnie did not hear the shouted congratulations, nor feel the hugs and kisses, was not cognizant of anything other than his pounding heart, labored breathing, and the horrible sinking feeling that this would not be one of the best days of his life. Donnie was wrong. Once back home, although disappointed, Mateus and Elena both remembered all the lessons they learned at the Eden Rock. And even though the Eden Rock and the Fontainebleau had been legendary rivals, including in court, when the Fontainebleau built an extension on their property in 1959 that resulted in blocking sunlight to the Eden Rock pool, their son kept his birthday present, which would pay big dividends later, and received both their blessings on his new adventure. The Fontainebleau. Just the name conjures up an era of gangsters, the Rat Pack, men in tuxedos and women in diamonds and gowns. It was where anyone who was anyone stayed when in Miami. What surprises most, including Donnie, is that the Fontainebleau didn't open until 1954. It was undergoing a $1 billion renovation because it needed it. Too many times management had seen survey cards and comments from guests that read something to the effect of, "The old girl is showing her age." As of November 18, 2008, those comments disappeared. The old girl not only got a facelift, she got back in the gym, bought herself an entire new wardrobe, and treated herself to a Lamborghini. Guests, both old and new, raved about the changes. And Donnie was right in the middle of it, working 10 to 16 hours a day, 6 to 7 days a week, overseeing the morning and afternoon eateries, and occasionally helping at night. The tricks and tips he learned from the Fontainebleau he would pass on to his folks, keeping his hand in at Suarez as much as he could. It was Friday, December 24, 2010. Les was taking a few days off from the Epic. It had been a wild 6 months, from the christening in New York by country star Reba McEntire, to its basing in Miami, and finally getting all the challenges that come with a shiny new vessel under control. There were no challenges as far as Les and his crew's next team were concerned. Les trained his people the same way Ron at Rawhide Travel had trained him. Treat everyone, employees, customers, family, and friends, exactly like you want to be treated. Ron would say it to him over and over again. Les had the saying made into desk nameplates and had one on his desk as well as his team's desks. Les and his crew's next team set records for future cruises booked while on ship, as well as high marks in post-cruise surveys. He was proud of what they had accomplished in the few short months they'd been sailing, but he was more than ready for some less time. He'd heard about the Fontainebleau and the amazing restoration. The Fontainebleau had heard about Les and the guests he'd sent to them for pre- and post-cruise stays, so comped him a long weekend at the hotel, with drinks and meals on them. Donnie had been successful as well, rising to become general manager of La Côte Restaurant, the two-level restaurant situated on the beach and at poolside. On the 24th, he received a call from the corporate office that a Mr. Les Percival would be arriving for dinner at 8 p.m., that he was from the NCL Epic, and that he was to be treated like he walks on water. Oh, great, another old fart, Donnie thought. At 7:45, a man approached the La Côte front desk. Good evening. I have a reservation for 8 o'clock, but I was wondering if I could be seated a little earlier. The hostess replied, let me check with our manager. I'll be right back. The hostess had been told about the VIP at 8. Her instructions were to get Donnie and bring him to the front. Donnie, I think he's here. What's he look like? He looks about your age, very well dressed. Donnie stopped her. That can't be him. Our guy's from the cruise lines. It's okay, Maggie. You did the right thing. I'll handle him. As he approached the front desk, Donnie spotted a man, slim, in what appeared to be a tailored Prada light gray suit, about 6 feet tall, full head of dark brown hair. Handsome, arrestingly so. Well, hell, thought Donnie. I'll find room for this guy. Good evening, sir. I'm Donaldo, the general manager here at La Côte. Les was staring at a 5'10" man with black curly hair and a tuxedo that was very form-fitting and a 10,000-watt smile. Gorgeous. Good evening, Donaldo. I'm Les Percival. I have an 8 o'clock reservation, but I was wondering... Donnie was pleasantly stunned. Excuse me, Mr. Percival, you're from NCL? Yes, I am. Don't be shocked. We're getting younger every day. Laughter from both. Well, please call me Les. If you'll call me Donnie. Great. They both found themselves staring at the other. Pow. I'm sorry, Les. We have a beautiful table for you facing the ocean. As Donnie led Les to the table, it took every second of his years of training not to blurt out a request to have Les meet him for drinks after work. It took every ounce of Les's willpower not to insist Donnie sit with him for dinner. As the evening progressed, both caught the other looking in their direction. Donnie came over after every course to see how dinner was progressing. Les was thinking it would be progressing even better if Donnie were sitting with him, enjoying the spectacular view from his table, while he enjoyed the spectacular view of Donnie. When the meal was over, Donnie headed over to Les's table, letting him know that the meal and drinks had been comped, courtesy of the Fontainebleau. Les handed Donnie two $50 bills and requested that one be given to his waiter that evening and one to the sommelier for recommending an exceptional bottle of wine. He stood up and, thanking Donnie for a wonderful evening, shook his hand. Donnie felt paper between their hands. Oh, shit, he's tipping me. Once Les left, Donnie looked at his right palm. It was a piece of paper. It read, Donnie, thank you for making this evening so special. I would not want to get you in any trouble. We're not supposed to fraternize with guests on our vessel, but I would love to spend some more time with you. If you're interested, my cell number is below. Thanks again, Les. That piece of paper ended up framed and displayed prominently in their living room, the very first item they hung on any wall. They ended up having coffee late that evening at the Primo Cafe and Market down the street from the Fontainebleau. They always referred to that, as well as Les's dinner at La Côte, as their first date. Through the days, months, and ultimately years, neither of them forgot that moment at the La Côte front desk, where they just stood and stared at each other, as if wondering where the other had been and why it had taken so long. The commitment to each other was easy. Telling the parents was going to be hard. Neither of them had come out. Both had kept their personal life very personal up to that moment. Ultimately, it was plenty hard for both. The parents were conservatives. All of them were churchgoers. All of them, putting it as carefully as possible, were not comfortable with their gay sons. Finally, it was Les who came up with the solution. He booked his folks on the Epic for Easter week, 2011. He also booked Donnie's parents on the same cruise. Matthias and Elena knew that Donnie's Medicon worked for NCL, but didn't know which boat. Les arranged a private area at Cagney Steakhouse at 7 o'clock for dinner. Very private in case there were fireworks. Neither set of parents knew about this arrangement. Les, Dave, and Linda had just settled in their seats when the Suarez family walked in. "What the hell's going on?" One couple in English, one couple in Spanish. Donnie took the lead. "Hold on. Quiet. Hear us out. Les loves you," pointing to Linda and Dave, "just as much as I love mine. This was the only way we could think of that would get you four together in the same room and not have someone yell, holler, and walk out. First, you're four professionals in the same industry, and you would never cause a scene in a restaurant. It's happened to each of you too many times. Secondly, we put you on a ship so you couldn't get pissed and leave, unless you swim really well." Chuckles all around. Third and most important of all, as Les has told me, and as I've told him, we have been blessed to have the most amazing parents any sons could have. The reason both Les and I have achieved some success in our lives is because of you four. The work ethic, the support, and the love we've felt from you always. Both Donnie and Les could feel and see their folks relaxing. You are the most important people in our lives. You mean more to us than anything. It was just as important for Les to meet you, pointing to Mateus and Elena, as it was for me to meet you, pointing to Dave and Linda. Les and I made a commitment to each other. That commitment includes our parents. Donnie had tears in his eyes, for without you all, we wouldn't be whole. It was quiet, reserved Dave who walked over to Donnie, put both hands on his shoulders, and said, "Welcome to our family, son," followed by a big bear hug. Mateus did the same to Les. There were more hugs and tears until Mateus noticed that while all this was going on, Les had quietly had the sommelier fill everyone's hollow stem glass with the finest champagne NCL had on board. He quietly went over to Dave, put his arm around him, and whispered, "Your kid is sharp," pointing to the filled champagne. Dave whispered back, "I think he learned that from your kid, Mateus." That week and the next several years were wonderful, rewarding times for both the Percival and Suarez families. Plenty of air miles were racked up between Miami and Phoenix. Plenty of cruises were enjoyed. Lots of evenings spent at the Fontainebleau. The family and friend tables at Suarez were renamed Percival Corner. On Christmas Day 2013, Dave and Linda gave the gift of a bucket list cross-off to Mateus when they arranged to have him fly with one of Luke Air Force Base instructors in a modified F-16C. They also arranged for a special patch to be sewn onto his flight suit, which he kept. The patch read, M. Suarez. Below the name was the word family. On Monday, April 21st, 2014, Dave and Linda were returning home from another trip, this one to Miami for Easter. Everyone had convinced them to take a later flight so they could spend the day together Monday. A United Airlines flight at 6:55 p.m. got them into Phoenix at 10:25. They only had a bag apiece as they had been storing Florida clothes at Les and Donnie's condo. They were very tired but incredibly happy, driving down West Glendale Avenue, covering all the highlights of their latest adventure. They were only several miles from home as they entered the intersection of West Glendale Avenue and North Dysart Road. In their relaxed, happy state, they never noticed the drunk driver blowing through the red light going 85 miles per hour. Les received the call at 3:45 a.m. Miami time. He, Donnie, Mateus, and Elena were able, through Delta Airlines bereavement policy, to fly that afternoon, arriving in Phoenix around 7 p.m. that night. 3 days later, Luke Air Force Base showed how they felt about Dave and Linda. Although they could not do a full military funeral, it was as close as you could come. So many officers, non-coms, soldiers, all in their dress blues. An honor guard, the full military band, 21 guns saluted Rest Haven Park Cemetery, their final resting place. The base had relieved Les of that horrible ordeal of working out the details of burying both his parents, and had shown him how much love and respect they had for them both, as well as for him. In 2015, it would be Donnie's turn. Mateus and Elena had married later in life when they were both 40. Now they were 75, still trying to keep the restaurant going, but inevitably slowing down with age. Donnie tried to help when he could, which was anywhere between 20 to 40 hours a week, besides the Fontainebleau, but it was just becoming too much. It was late on Saturday, May 23rd, 2015. It had been a busy night at the restaurant, so there was quite a bit to do before closing. For years, Mateus would count receipts in the front, Elena would help with kitchen cleanup in the back, then she'd bring out 2 plates of food, he'd bring out some wine, and they'd meet in the middle and have dinner. Elena was done first. She brought the plates to the small round table where they always sat and looked to where Matthias counted to see how far along he was. His arms were crossed in front of him, his head resting on them, appearing to be asleep. Mi amor. Mi amor? No answer. She said a little louder. No response. She walked over to him. Mi amor? Put her hands on his. Ice cold. Panic pulled him up. Then screamed. A massive heart attack had finally stopped him. 15 minutes later, a member of the Suarez kitchen staff called Donnie. Donnie immediately phoned Les, who was on the Epic, ready to head out to Barcelona, Spain, for a 7-day cruise. Les was able to get off the ship in time, find flights to get him back to Miami, and arrived by late Sunday night. The entire Cuban-American community turned out for what would always be remembered as not a mourning, but a celebration of an amazing man's life. Donnie decided on what he called an open mic service. No set eulogy. Let folks come up and speak from the heart about his father. And they did. Close to a 3-hour service full of tears and laughter and tales both tall and real about Matthias. And all the while Elena sat, tears running down her face, a small smile on her lips, as if knowing a secret that only her and her mi amor shared. It was 1 month later, June 23rd, when Elena was found in her bed. That same smile on her lips, gone to be with the man she did not want to live without. The doctor said heart attack as well. Everyone knew it wasn't an attacked heart. It was a broken one. Again, because of his exemplary record, Les was able to get it home in time, and this time he was needed. Donnie had made it through the loss of his father. His mother's death devastated him. Les had to make all the arrangements, recontact all the suppliers, and make special arrangements at Woodlawn Park Cemetery so Matthias and Elena could be buried together. He even took a 2-month leave of absence to help Donnie sort out the tangled web that was the Suarez finances. The first and the most painful step was selling Suarez. It ultimately was sold to the Havana 57 group, who were kind enough to use 4 of Elena's recipes, with credit on the menus, nationwide. Once the web was untangled, Donnie was left several millions of dollars richer. Matthias and Elena had taken good care of their son. He, and Les, if he so chose, would never have to work again. So they began to dream and plan. They both loved what they did, but they loved the thought of traveling the world together even more. They decided that their last week of work, Les had to pick the end of a cruise, would be the week ending Saturday, June 4th, 2016. Each gave their respective employers 2 months advance notice. Both employers offered them large sums of money to stay. Not a chance. Paris and Rome and Prague and Sydney and lots of other places were whispering their names. It was like rawhide travel all over again. There were Les and Donnie, brochures and itineraries spread out all over their dining room table, creating a continuous trip of a lifetime. In this case, 2 lifetimes. But first, a side trip. Les had been a great referral source to the Hyatt Regency Grand Cypress in Orlando. The Hyatt, like the Fontainebleau, had offered him and a guest a week's stay on them, all expenses included. He and Donnie decided to play tourists on their 35th birthdays and spend the week exploring a town that, surprisingly, neither one had spent much time in. They arrived at the Hyatt on Monday, June 6th, and were immediately impressed with the large suite they were given. The food at the hotel was equal to the suite, if not more so. They checked out Universal Studios, Disney World, Disney Springs, where they had an amazing culinary experience at the boathouse, followed by a ride in the autoboats, and an amazing food at Eddie V's Prime Seafood and Chop House. But it was the recently opened Better Than Sex desserts that reminded them of how much fun restaurant life was. They finished their evenings there almost every night. They tried every dish. Caress My Carrot, Peanut Butter Perversion, Italian Stallion, Between My Red Velvet Sheets, and the Man Flowers were just a few of the treats they shared, accompanied by wines in a chocolate-rimmed glass. It was a Better Than Sex after a 2-hour-plus sugar-laden extravaganza had left both Les and Donnie full of energy that they decided to finish the evening doing something they hardly ever did. They asked their very humorous waiter what the best dance club in town was. They wanted to dance in their birthdays. The answer was Pulse. And a treat for Donnie, it was Latin Night. Only 3.5 miles away, Donnie and Les arrived about 11:50, 10 minutes before their 35th birthdays. The building had a black exterior, a full parking lot, and Latin music you could hear while still in your car. The club was broken up into 3 sections. From the main entrance, you could head to the left, where there was a rear bar as well as the restrooms, or to the right, where you came to the main dance area, then an outdoor patio. Les and Donnie immediately hit the dance floor, where they danced almost nonstop. At one point, shortly after midnight, the DJ was told about Les and Donnie's birthdays. He stopped the music, pointed them out, and told the very crowded club that it was the 35th birthday. Tonight, both these bitches, and to not let them buy one more drink. The whole club exploded in cheers and applause and an impromptu singing of Happy Birthday. Both accepted multitudes of free drinks, would sip and thank the buyer, and then discreetly put the drink down. They were pros. No mixing liquors for them. It was 2 a.m. when the bartender shouted last call. Donnie and Les were walking to the outdoor patio when suddenly what sounded like firecrackers erupted behind them. Les had heard that sound hundreds of times before at Luke Air Force Base. It wasn't fireworks. Donnie, down! Just as Les started to pull him to the ground, he felt like someone had kicked him in the back. Donnie was beside him, grimacing, holding his right arm. Les looked down, blood on his shirt. Okay, the bullet went through. Can I move? He tried to get up but couldn't. At that moment, Donnie noticed a crowd of people heading to the back of the patio. There must be an exit there. We gotta get out of here. Les, can you get up? Donnie yelling in his ear as the shots kept coming. I can't get up. Okay, grab a hold of me as best you can. I'm going to drag us out of here. As Donnie dragged him and Les to the patio, he noticed someone unlatching a gate to the back and dozens of people throwing themselves out the exit. A couple of patrons noticed the 2 birthday boys leaving a trail of blood as they headed their way. They helped them quickly through the exit. Police had already arrived and were heading through the same exit, engaging with the gunman. Les passed out shortly thereafter. He initially had the more significant wounds, the bullet passing extremely close to the spinal cord. Fortunately, the physicians at Orlando Regional Medical Center realized early on the potential for full or partial paralysis, even though the cord was not directly affected. Surgery stabilized him, as well as repairing the organs that had been punctured and torn. He was, however, looking at a long recovery period. Donnie was conscious until he went into surgery at Orlando Regional as well. He would always remember the kind words of so many of the survivors, both unharmed and injured, who saw him with Les, either waiting for or receiving medical attention. We're sorry about your birthday, baby. Thank God the birthday boys got out. We love you guys. And lots of blown kisses and well wishes. It was after surgery that he received the news that his right shoulder had suffered severe nerve damage and that he would have limited use of his right arm for the rest of his life. The good news was that extensive physical therapy would bring back some of the use. Once both men were stabilized, Orlando Regional moved them into the same room. As they looked at each other for the first time, in what seemed like forever, they both said one word. Pow. It was there that they learned the extent of the carnage. 49 people dead, 58 injured. At that time, the largest mass shooting in U.S. history. All accomplished with semi-automatic weapons, a Sig Sauer MCX semi-automatic rifle, and a 9mm Glock 17 semi-automatic pistol. Both men were in tears as Donnie recounted to Les all the expressions of love they had received from the survivors. They also wondered how many of those free drinks they'd received came from people who didn't make it. The travel industry, which can be cutthroat competitive, can also become a very solicitous and caring family when one of their own is in trouble. Such was the case with Les and Donnie. Once they were ready to be discharged, not one without the other, both the Fontainebleau and NCL arranged not only an ambulance to take them home to Miami, but also someone to drive their Mercedes back. When they got back home, the companies arranged for all the help each of them needed, including live-in cleaning and cooking, including a full refrigerator and cupboards, transportation for each of them to their respective doctors and therapy visits, and at-home medical care. Among the hundreds of get-well cards they received were 2 slightly larger ones, with a postmark that caught their attention. Each card was different, written specifically for each man. Yet both cards touched on the other as well, with one line at the very end, the same for each man, reading, "We know that you grieve not only for the lives lost, not only for the others injured, not only even for yourself. You grieve that your love, your life, should be drawn into this needless horror as well. We believe that having a support group around you helps through times of sorrow and sadness. You have your own support group. He's sitting beside you. Give him strength as you draw strength from him. Be there for each other. We will be there when you need us. Les ended up being Orlando 71, Donnie Orlando 75. Among the first people they met online was Navy Yard 14, and then others from Pulse. As the months progressed and therapy continued, their lives took on a different vision, and Donnie was to blame. The stories he told Les of that night, the love that he felt from so many as he held Les, afraid that he was losing him, had ultimately an incredibly positive effect on both men. The brochures and itineraries still took up a place in the dining room table, but now was a small corner. Instead of traveling the world, there was travel back and forth to Orlando, supporting victims groups, helping survivors less fortunate than themselves, supporting the gay community by donating time, effort, and money. The Birthday Boys. That's what they were called by every one of the survivors, even some of the families who'd heard the story. Now, it was the Birthday Boys who were giving out the presents, and it never felt like enough. The pain, the anger, the lingering injuries, both physical and mental, including post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD. Why, everyone would ask, why us? What did we do other than want to have a good time at our club? Why Donnie? Why Les? The Birthday Boys had no answer. They felt the same way. Even though it was a relatively small community, the need was still large. Though they did the best they could with the limited resources, including physical, they were both in therapy, they had, it still never felt like it was enough. They can never feel like all those free drinks they got so very long ago had been repaid. They would voice their frustration in Navy Yard 14, both individually and together. It was Maxine who told them about something brewing. Would they be interested in meeting with Antioch 10? Absolutely. Later in the morning of June 29th, Ray, without much of the sleep he had requested, was on Airlines Flight 4477 out of Charleston at 8:01 a.m., arriving in Miami at 9:43 a.m. He was told that when he got to baggage claim, there would be someone waiting for him with a ride to the Fontainebleau, where he'd meet Les and Donnie. As he headed down the escalator, a gentleman in a three-piece black suit with black tie was holding up a Mr. Wilson sign. Ray asked, yes, he was waiting for a Ray Wilson. He took Ray out to his ride. Some ride. A long-stretch limo used normally for celebrities was waiting curbside, air conditioning blasting, a carafe of fresh squeezed orange juice waiting for him. Ray smiled. No champagne for mimosas? We were told you didn't drink, sir. Maxine. He chuckled. You're absolutely right. Ray sat there looking at the scenery, clutching his orange juice. Well, at least everyone's buying me drinks, he thought. Then he remembered their backstory. Might not want to bring that up. As the limo pulled up to the iconic Fontainebleau, he was greeted by one of the front desk managers who led him through to the impressive lobby and into Vita restaurant, where breakfast was being served. In a corner, far away from other guests, sat two men, both open-neck dress shirts, one with curly black hair, smiling, in a light tan suit, the other slimmer, brown hair, a light gray, both tan, though still appearing at least to Ray on the men from their wounds. Hi, I'm Ray Wilson. Right hand out. Mistake. Donnie stood up, left hand out. You must be Donato. I'm sorry, I forgot. Hi, Ray. Smile. Call me Donnie. No, I understand. Most everyone shakes with the right hand as I'm finding everything else. This is Les Percival, motioning to the man in the gray suit, who got up a little slowly, shaking Ray's hand. How much has Maxine told you about me? Les replied, she mentioned your background, how you ended up on the site. Donnie chimed in, I know a little of how you feel. For quite a while, I thought I'd lost Les. Quiet. But he's tough. We made it, thank God. Ray asked them about their injuries. After a few minutes, Les chimed in. Ray, I thought we were here to learn about your plan, not to give you the details of our therapy. Ray looked at them for a while. Then, for the first time, uttered words he'd hope he'd never have to say. I'm not telling you about the plan. I don't believe you can physically or mentally go through with it. Donnie, you've got a bum right shoulder. Les, you move like someone twice your age. You guys have been through hell, and you've got more hell to go through. But knowing you for the brief time I've known you, I know you'll get through it. You've got money. You have each other. You live in paradise. There's no way you have enough anger in your souls to do what you'll be required to do. I do. The people who signed on do. They burn with hate. They've lived with the hate for every moment since their shooting. They want someone to pay for what happened, and they'll walk through anything or anyone to soothe the pain they feel. I don't believe you guys can. I don't believe you guys will. I'm sorry. They sat staring at each other. Les started to get up. Donnie gently pushed him back down. Afterwards, Gray would always refer to these moments as his own personal eye-opener. Donnie replied in a low, calm voice, "Ray, you seem like a sincere man, a genuine man. I won't do what my Cuban-American upbringing is telling me to do, which is to punch you in your fucking face. How dare you judge Les and I by the way we dress, by the way we carry ourselves, even by the scars we carry. What we are wearing is what we wore almost every single day of our working lives. We wore this as a sign of respect for you, not to impress you with our money or possessions. In our line of work, we were expected to look and carry ourselves with authority, not only to impress, but also to let whoever spoke to us know they were in competent hands. When we go to Orlando, no one asks us the price of our suit, our shoes, or tells us we can't help them because Les can't run or I can't use my right arm well. They thank us. They welcome us. They make us feel like we're part of a family. A weird, bizarre, tragic kind of family. But a family, nonetheless. Tell me, Mr. Wilson," at this point dripping in sarcasm, "have you ever gone back to Antioch and used some of your millions to help any of the victims there?" Ray was ready to return Donnie's proffered punch back in kind, but knew he had to sit and take it, low-key. But God, he wanted to turn the table over on those pricks. Nah, Mr. Wilson. You want to have your little plane go up in smoke? Go ahead and take that cocked right fist and hit me with it. Ray stood up. In a very low voice, so no one would hear, he said, "I'm going to go get myself a room anywhere but at this fucking place." Flung his card at Donnie and Les and said, "I'll give you 24 hours. If I don't hear from you again, fine. If I hear from you, we'll try to start civilly again. But if I don't hear from you, then go fuck yourself, you piece of shit. And by the way," getting even closer to Donnie's face, "if my wife were here and heard you say that, she'd break your fucking neck." Flung a $20 on the table and left. He got as far as the entrance. Ray. He turned. Donnie was heading toward him on a trot. Quick calculation, Donnie would swing with the left, so take a small step forward and turn behind the leg to give him the left target. Donnie laughed. "Think I'm going to hit you, huh?" "No, Les convinced me pretty quickly that since you and I have temper issues, that maybe he should do the talking. Like I said, I'm more than happy to start over if we can keep it civil. Otherwise, I already have 2 more members I need to see." "Fine, we can do that." Back at the table, this time Les doing the talking. "Ray, I apologize for getting off on the wrong foot." "We both did," Ray replied. "Okay. You know about our injuries, our therapy. Why do you feel it would be a burden to your plan? And before you start, let me just add that if I agree with you, we would not be a help. That'll be the end of it. If we can discuss quietly and logically a way that Donnie and I can be a help and not a hindrance, you'll agree to bring us on board." Ray knew in an instant this old sales trick. What the hell? Sure. Ray outlined the plan, highlighting the carrying of semi-automatic rifles, Donnie, and the need for speed, Les. It was also made very clear that there were going to be 2 probable outcomes: death or a very lengthy stretch in prison. They wouldn't know until either they were in the hereafter, in Petersburg, Virginia, or in Terre Haute, Indiana, awaiting execution, what the outcome was. Ray did not ask them to participate in any way. He completed his presentation, then sat back. Les began. "Ray, did you know that the man who did this to us was investigated by the FBI in both 2013 and 2014 for connections to terrorism and was placed on the terrorist screening database? For some reason, he was taken off the database so he could legally buy the semi-automatic weapons he used to kill our friends and wound us." "Yep, I sure did. Almost every major mass murder begins and ends with semi-automatic weapons." "Do you know what weapons he used?" A rifle and pistol, I believe. In this case, Ray, a 9mm Glock 17 semi-automatic pistol. A pistol that could be held in one hand. A nod to Donnie. How's your left arm coming around? Donnie smiled for the first time in quite a while. Want to arm wrestle? Laughs from all three. Nope. I want my arm to remain as is. Let's continue. Okay. What happens to the bus when everyone rushes out? Ray thought. It sits there. And the police can ignore it, rush by, and get to everyone in the building that much quicker. Maybe you don't make the 6th floor. Maybe Jim Mitchell gets to watch as all the assaulted are either taken out in body bags or handcuffs, then gets to put even a wider weapons protection bill in front of Congress. The guy who assaulted us was able to hold off the police for 3 hours. 3 hours, Ray. In a bathroom with a bunch of scared gay men surrounding him. 3 hours. What if Donnie and I could buy you time in the building by staying in the bus? We shoot some rounds, keep the cops from coming through the front door, get you higher in the building. Then we'd have a choice. We could either surrender, which would take precious minutes, try to escape, which based on the way you'll be parking the bus is a possibility, or have the bus wired with explosives. We push a button, bus blows into 1,000,000 pieces, the NRA's precious front shatters, which keeps the cops at bay and buys you even more time. Holy shit, Ray thought. That's brilliant. Yeah, Ray, I know it's a great idea. Smile. I'm in sales, remember? Les, I know you just thought of this. Yes, it's brilliant. Yes, it would buy us a ton of time. Time I didn't think about until just now. My hot-headed offer stands. If you both would like to talk about this, I'll get myself a room and wait for your call. If you decide you can't, no hard feelings. I'll always be glad Donnie came and got me and didn't punch me. I will add that to the plan, no matter if you're there or not. If you're willing to do this, I'm willing to make damn sure we can make it easy for you to move around the bus, give you as much protection as we can, and try to get you out of there before we blow it. Les looked at Donnie, who smiled. His pal smiled at him. We're in, Ray. Later, in his suite at the Fontainebleau, Ray called Maxine and related the whole story, including the parts not necessarily constructive towards his own behavior. Jesus Christ, Ray, what the fuck? I know, the Cuban kid pissed me off. Again, Ray, Jesus Christ, what the fuck? You were going to walk away and leave a huge hole in the plan uncovered? They're right, the cops would have been in the building within 5 minutes, and your ass would have been on the 4th floor with 2 more to go. Maybe still in the lobby. Ray, Jesus Christ. I know, Max, I know. I missed it. Glad he pulled me back. I'll behave myself. I hope you will. Where next? You want to stay in Florida? Well, yeah, Donnie said I had the suite for a week if I needed it. You're headed just down the road to Parkland, to the school those kids from the protest at the Capitol were from? Stoneman Douglas High School, Parkland, 35.